Good evening and welcome to another edition of Keene No Spin. I'm Dave Richards, and today with me is...
I'm not Randy Filio.
He's not
I'm Rick Blood.
Rick Blood is here. Randy is on assignment. At least told him I would say that.
Last minute.
He is on last minute. Well,
he called yesterday.
Yeah, he did, and we truly appreciate you coming in.
It's been a long time since I've been on TV complaining about things. So.
Well, and actually we have stuff that you're not going to complain about.
You said last night at City Council, you said, what are you going to complain about? And I went,
things are good.
Lately, things are fairly good.
I do have, let me make a note of that.
What you've...
Bearcat. I knew I wanted to think of that, but for that, we'll do that a little
No,
later.
That's a good thing.
See, I think complain, Rick, Bearcat. It's just word association,
There you go.
Day, night.
Well, let's start off with council last night.
Yeah,
because you had a presentation.
We did. We had a presentation. It was pretty good, and it's a Honeywell project that we went through to reduce the usage of carbon fuels, really, and make things more efficient. And what they did was they came in a few years ago, and this is one of them things it's nice to see it come to fruition. And if you notice the solar panels on City Hall, that's part of it. And what they did was they looked at everything in the city where we use natural gas, electricity, or oil, and how can we make it more efficient. And basically it was about $2 million for them to do this. But the other side of that is that in spending the $2 million, and that's bonded, they guaranteed X amount of savings every year for fuel. That savings they guaranteed at $160,000 a year, which satisfies the bond. So it essentially becomes no cost to do it. Right? Now, the payback was, I want to say, 11.7 years. So at 11.7 years, we can satisfy the bond, and the savings that we get go on forever after that. So you pay it back over 11 years. After that, you're making money every year. You're not spending as much on fuel. The first year, our estimate is almost just short of $200,000. So we're already ahead of the game. We've reduced our carbon footprint by 17%. And this is upgrading furnaces, heating systems.
It must have been the work that was done here in the studio.
Yep.
Where they weather stripped all the doors, they replaced the boiler.
Yep. Oh yeah, all that stuff.
Yep.
And and it's very multifaceted, lots of different things. And the next step's lighting, but we'll get into that in a second. But yeah, they put in I say propane, but it could have been natural gas. But they put in a natural gas tank, and I think it was at City Hall. And I don't have every single thing that they did, and the list is this long for $2 million.
There was a big PowerPoint that laid it all out last night.
Yeah, and it really it's we got to take our hats off to the city staff for even thinking of this and getting these people in and taking, what can we do? How can we be better? It's going to save us a fortune. And the fact that, fuel oil's now, $3.50, $3.60 a gallon. This was based on the price being $2.75. So that's, the price really dramatically went up. So, that's that much less fuel we're using at that
and
price.
Of course, with all the federal cuts and the state cuts, and we have to find some way to...
We've got to find all kinds of innovative ways.
Yeah.
Well, and that goes to, and I couldn't make it, I was out of town, the joint meeting between the city council and the school board.
Oh, right.
And they're talking about putting us on the same fuel contract. And, they're talking about a lot of things. But I think what you can really get is, all right, let's make a deal when we buy fuel oil for the city and the school.
Well, yeah, I mean, that seems like it's just a common sense,
It does seem a little bit like a no-brainer, right? Take the big entities and get them all together and say, bid for our fuel, and we use a lot of it, so we want a good price. Mm-hmm. So things like that, I think, could move rather quickly. There's other things that, when you have two governmental entities, it takes a lot more work, and we'll see what happens with that. I mean, here's something funny, a little bit off the track, and I've had a couple people mention this. If we were to combine the city council with the school board, and the funny thing is, you ask either one of them, and they're like, no, we don't want to do that. But when you talk about economies of scale, the city staff has, we have engineers, we have attorneys, we have, we have things that. In building inspectors. I mean, we have things the school doesn't. Right. Well, the school has to go out and contract all that work out. So if they need an assessment on a building, they either have to contract it, and they've asked us in the past to help out.
Yeah.
So my initial thought is, if we had to add just a couple employees probably to pick up the difference, and we don't do all these bidding out contracts, maybe it's not a crazy idea. I mean, nobody's really advancing it yet, but when you look at,
Well, now, when the tax bill comes in, is there a clear cut? Does it say, here's your
Yes.
city, here's your property taxes,
Yep.
here's your school taxes?
I believe it does. I haven't actually looked at see, my wife does all the finances for us, and we get the bill. But yeah, I think it breaks it out by city, county, and school. And those are the three big entities that you're paying into. I think it's a little confusing to read because I've had a lot of people come up to me and have the city budget figures wrong. And oh, it's $100 million. Well, no, it's not. The city's 30 and the school is 60 and the county's, you know.
And see, to me, that doesn't really matter because
Yeah.
taxes are taxes. It's money that's
Right.
being taken out of my pocket, and I don't, does it really matter where it goes?
Well,
And
from my perspective, I would say, yeah, I would say it does. And the reason I say that is, I don't want to be held responsible for the school board budget when people ask me what I'm doing. And the city does things very differently than the school board does. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm not running down the school board because I think the education you get in Keene is phenomenal. Yeah. And, I think they do a great job. But, for the guy who gets his bill, I think if he's got questions, he wants to go to the right place to get answers to those questions. And I get calls all the time that have, what about this with the county, and I always feel bad kind of shoving them off, but I'm like, I'm a city councilor and I work full time and I have a son, and I really, if I knew the answer, I'd give it to you, but I got to give you, your state rep because that's your,
see Chris Roberts.
Yeah, right.
He knows it all.
He can answer everything. Yeah, he's on all three, right?
He's school board, city council, and
state rep.
Yeah.
So, and just so you know, if your state representative is also your county delegate. So when county decisions are made in Cheshire County, it's your state rep that's doing that for the county.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, call Chris Roberts. He's the answer man. No, but if you can call it expertise, mine is with the city. So I don't always know all the answers to the school board questions. While we're on that, they kind of went with the best plan I think they could have with this new realignment with the schools.
Right. A lot of controversy.
Yeah.
But then again, I see in the paper last night that Conval is now looking to, they actually want to enact a plan so that if they want to close a school, they don't have to go to the people. They can just, the school board can just up and boom, we're closing a school.
That's not really.
I mean, my whole problem with the especially when they were talking about the grade span stuff.
Yep.
Which basically means that for the majority of your kid's life, he's going to be on a bus.
Well, okay. That one I was thinking of more of the impact of not being around kids of varied ages was my concern with it. So you can see how complex this issue is.
I grew up on Grove Street. I walked to Wheelock School every day. And at that time, you could walk home for lunch.
Right.
And it would be go to school, walk home for lunch, walking the whole way. And so did everybody else in the neighborhood. I wasn't on a school bus until I hit high school.
Yeah. I hadn't thought of that. And that's my wife walked to school. I didn't go to school in Keene. My father walked to school. My mother walked to school. You want to hear a funny story?
Sure.
This how school was different a million years ago. My mother and father, my mother's passed, but they're the same age. And my mother graduated a year before my father. And I'm like, I found their yearbooks. And I'm like, I thought you guys were the same age. What happened, And my mother's had a sister who's 1 year older than her. And she went to go start school. And she just took my mother's hand and said, come on with me. And my mother went with her. And they got to school, and okay, can you, and of course, she already was my mother's pretty smart, especially in reading and writing. She already could do it. Okay, have a seat, we'll sign you up. So, much different world in 1937 than it is in, 2012, and that's what it took to. But my big issue was the difference in the grades, in that you would only go, and I don't remember exactly how it broke out, but say Fuller School would be grade 3 and 4.
Right.
And I use this example with Randy on the last show, and I'll use it again because I think it's really noteworthy. Is by the way, Fuller School, I think it's just outstanding. It's an outstanding
all
school.
schools in Keene
My personal experience has only been with my son going to Fuller, and I just hats off to everybody in that school. They were awesome. And now the middle school is looking really good too. They're really working with us well. But when he got, he goes first grade, and they had fifth graders would come out, and they had like a safety thing on, and they would help all the little kids in. And I thought that was really cool. And then the time goes by so fast. Now my son was in fifth grade, and then he ran. I guess you had to run for election to get that, and he got it. And he was out there helping the little kids in. Yep. And I think you can extrapolate so much out of that they really work together, and they
you need the skills
yeah.
to be able to interact with people 5, 6, 7, 10 years you're elder and you're younger.
Right. And I think that by not going to like the 2 grade or whatever it was going to be there, I think clearly a bad choice. Clearly,
I think so too.
Now the practical realities, and I don't know the answer. I feel bad about it. To me, and there's a lot of talk about class size and whether that matters, and the naysayers, no, it doesn't. There's no doubt in my mind it matters.
It doesn't matter.
There's no doubt. Oh, here we go.
Hold on, let me extrapolate now.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Kid gets to college.
Yeah.
Okay? You take a college course. You'll walk into a lecture hall with 150 kids. You can't tell me they're not learning any less than.
But when you are in second grade, and
you've got distractions.
You're naturally distracted at that age, and I think that particularly in elementary that. And I saw this at Fuller where, you had a teacher and a teacher aide, and they could get to each kid and understand their problems and help them work through it. Yeah. Where in college, you're on your own. Right. And I think, when I went to grade school, I think there was, 25 kids in the class. And I don't know if the teachers ever talked to me. If you had a passing grade, they had to focus on anybody who didn't. Where if you have 18 kids, you can focus on everybody. And you can help the smarter kids even advance quicker. The kids who are struggling, you can work with them.
Maybe we need more volunteers.
I would be happy to see more volunteers. But, but practically, nowadays, you need 2 incomes in your family.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So who can spend the kind of time volunteering? I mean,
right.
I'm on city council, and you know what that's like. It's so many meetings, and between that and work, I'm going all the time. And it's so I consider council volunteering, but nonetheless, it's people just don't have time like they used to. Right. I mean, when I was a kid, my mother was at home. Of course, there was 6 kids, so that absolutely was a full-time job. I mean, but anywhere we can get volunteers, and we get tons of them in Keene.
Right.
It's a great thing, but practically, it's not something you could count on.
Right.
So, well, with that said. Let's see, what do we have that was, the Honeywell presentation was awesome. We're saving money. They have funny words. They like cost avoidance and whatnot.
That's what threw me, the cost avoidance report.
They can only state, if you use 1,000 gallons of oil, right? And we do this, you're going to use 700 gallons of oil. But if oil's $5 a gallon or $3 a gallon,
right.
They can only guarantee that you will not use as much fuel. They can't guarantee the full savings in dollar amount because of the prices. And we've actually made out very well, even though oil's gone up, electricity's gone down. And if you saw the bill, the electricity bill was a lot higher than the oil bill.
Well, yeah, and they replaced the windows in the library.
Yep.
And I know that was probably part of the project, and that had to save a ton.
Oh yeah. Well, they remind me of the windows in my house when I replaced them. Had the pulleys.
Yep.
And I had to replace them. I was afraid my son would get killed with them. Because they go up, and boy, when they come down, and you could walk by in the winter and light a match and go by the windows. And,
yeah.
So. Yeah. It's and that's where we're going next too. That's next on the agenda is all the lighting fixtures in the city, and let's see what we can do with them. We did do it with, I should say, we did it with the signal lights in the city.
Okay.
We put in LED and took out the old ones, and when you think about it, the LED bulbs are a lot more expensive. They last
But
10.
that's 100 years.
Yeah,
Right?
they last. Well, I think they're guaranteed for 10, but
Oh,
they
okay,
could
yeah.
last. I mean, if nothing, like any other thing, if nothing messes with it, you can get more than that out of it. Plus, you got to remember all the time it took public works crews to go out there, because you had to change them all once a year. I mean, with the old bulbs, and now once every 10 years. So as you phase them in, it's a much smaller job every year. You're going to go do 3 lights, instead of every light in the city. So there's lots of other cost savings that until you dig way into the nuts and bolts of how the stuff works, you really can't see it.
Yeah.
The Bearcat, is that this Saturday? I think that's this Saturday.
That's tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah, yes, that's right.
Tomorrow.
The Bearcat is going to be on display.
350 Marlboro Street.
350 Marlboro Street. And it's in the
Along
morning.
with every other vehicle I believe the city owns.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Give a full picture.
Yeah.
But that, for those people who liked it, who didn't like it, I suggest you go down. I think it's 9
see
to
what it
noon.
is.
Yeah, go look at it up close, and you'll see it's just a big truck at the end of the day.
And I'm very happy that they're doing that. I figured they'd stick it in, in that storage area at 350 behind,
Sure.
the old muster truck.
We got it. Put it over here now. But no. They should. They definitely should show it, and
I think they should, yeah.
And the city council requested that after the first 6 months that we have it, we'd like a report back on what it's used for. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you right now, I bet you dollars to donuts.
Doesn't even get used.
Well, either it doesn't get used, or it's used for something in the rescue field, not in the
crime field.
In the crime field, I bet you anything. Yeah. But we'll see.
Yeah.
I do have a sad note today. Thayer Kingsbury died. He was my neighbor, but I only knew him for really 12 years, which is a very short part of his life. He was a great community volunteer. I mean, we volunteered for the Red Cross for decades.
And it was his grandfather that started Kingsbury?
Kingsbury's. Well, there was 2 Kingsbury's. There's Machine Tools, and I can't remember the other one. And yeah, it was his grandfather was one of them. Then they merged, I think, in the 40s.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, see, I'm just going by what I read in the paper. But there was my neighbor. And I tell you a funny story. We had a house party for Dean, right, when Governor Dean was running for president, and Thayer was a big supporter of Governor Dean, and so that's what you do. You have a house party, get 15, 20 people over, try to get them excited to go out and get other people, and Thayer was the only one who showed up, and to tell the rest of the story, it was 15 degrees below zero, and it was cold. And, but Thayer was the only one who showed up. And this is 6 years ago, so the only guy who showed up was the 85-year-old guy. And I always thought, I would say I'm going to be there. He volunteered at the hospital for decades. He was in World War II. He was just an awesome human being. He will be sorely missed in the community. There's a vigil for him. I believe it's tomorrow at Central Square. I will stop down, although I can't stay all day. But it really sad. Just a volunteer and a great leader.
When long-time community people go, it's always sad for the
community. 92 years old, active right till the last minute. I mean,
these days you have to be.
Yeah.
What's the alternative?
Well, if you, I don't know. It's funny as you look at, I look at my father who's getting older, and it really seems to me the people who stay busy are the ones who pull off 90, 95 years. My father's, he's 80, he's out there mowing the lawn, and, his favorite joke, he's got like 2 acres of lawn, and I'm trying to talk him into downsizing because he doesn't need it, but his joke is, how long does it take you to mow the lawn, Dad? He goes, all summer. but that's, Thayer was the example of that. He was doing something all the time. I believe he was 92. I mean, had a good full life. Yep. But he will be sorely missed. Also, okay, back to some. Sorry, we're bouncing around too much.
More city stuff.
Fire station dedication is the 14th at 1 o'clock. Looking forward to that. Had Public Works been on the ball, it would have been sooner. Did I say that out loud?
I think you did.
Was that my inside voice? I'm just picking. Public Works does a great job, but they didn't coordinate, and the fire would have been.
Jeez, that's it. Now you've got it.
But we're looking forward to that. It's a beautiful building, long overdue. Very much looking forward to seeing the tour of it finished. I mean, I've seen it a couple times in construction.
Yeah.
But now to see it with the walls in and everything, it'll be pretty cool. Rick, why don't you tell us about? We got two things. Which one do you want to go with?
Actually,
Sardines or telethons?
Well, let's go with the stuff that's happening this weekend.
Okay.
Because, well, first of all, Sunday at the Mabel Brown Room, I believe it's at 2:00.
Yeah.
Is the reception for the newest In the Reflections series.
Yep.
Called From the Mayor's Office.
Yep.
Interviews with all of the surviving mayors.
Yep.
Narrated by Cynthia Georgina.
Oh, I did. That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, she's still working.
Yeah.
Even though, I mean, she's low-key now, not being on the council. But
Well, I do her show from time to time,
Yep,
so.
yeah, still on the air, and she did the voice work on this project, and Lee edited all together
Yeah.
and
Sounds
did
awesome.
all the technical stuff, and it airs Mabel Brown Room.
Now,
2:00 on Sunday.
I'm assuming that at some point it'll be on Channel 8.
I believe it will. It'll probably run like all the rest of them did for a few months
Yep.
in a stretch, and it was a good
No,
show.
this sounds awesome. It was discussed a little last night. Hopefully, most of the mayors, I mean, some of them may have some medical issues and won't be able to be there.
Yeah.
But it looks like most of them will. Most of the mayors of Keene who, are still alive, and there's a number of them.
I believe there's 7 or 8.
Yeah. So, that'll be awesome. I'm looking for. I can't be there Sunday, but I'm looking forward to it getting on the Channel 8.
There'll also be DVDs available.
Oh, okay. There, I'm set. Give me a DVD.
You can add to your collection.
Add to my collection. Yeah. So that's okay. That's
Sunday at 2.
That's awesome.
And Sunday starting at 12
Yeah.
on right here on Cheshire TV is a telethon.
That's let's hear all about it.
It is a telethon for Keene Community Kitchen,
Yep.
100 Nights Shelter, and aid services for the Monadnock region.
Okay.
Heberton Hall is where it's going to be held. You're encouraged to bring down donations.
Yep.
Warm coats, sleeping bags, anything, basically anything you want to donate.
So you say they're not looking for cash?
They are also looking for cash. Yeah, oh, sure.
I knew we'd get there.
Sure. I believe there'll be 4 phone lines here that people will be able to call.
Yep.
I don't know the specifics on that yet,
Okay.
but also the drop-in donations,
Yep.
for food and warm clothes. Wintertime's coming, there are homeless people out there.
Yep.
And I've put together a little package. I chose 6 of my photos,
Yep.
and I've offered them to Susan McNeil, who has agreed that if anybody donates $150 or more, you'll receive an 8x12 print,
Yep.
mounted and matted to 12x16.
Nice.
So, and I've put together a little clip,
Oh, all right.
the little promo teaser thing for
Yeah, sure.
for the incentives.
Yep.
So if anyone wants to run that, we can run that.
Very nice. Very nice.
So-
Somebody can wield a camera.
I try.
How long have you been doing this?
About 3 years, seriously.
Oh, okay. So, and that website shows all your stuff, and you do sell some of it.
Yep. I
So,
try.
what's the website?
It is on Facebook.
Yep.
Is Dreammaker Images
Okay.
is my page, or Rick Blood Fine Art Photography.
There you go.
Just look for me on Facebook, and
You'll
I'll
find
point
it.
you in the right direction.
So no, I've seen a lot of your other stuff. It's very good. It's very good, and it's I mean the actually the lighthouse caught my eye. I'm like, wow, that one's nice. Now, do you get to pick the one, or they just send
Yes,
you?
no, you get to pick
Okay.
one of those 6, and when you get them, the name won't be on the bottom,
Okay.
but you'll pick them by name.
Awesome. That's terrific.
It'll
So
take a couple weeks to get them made and either available for pickup or delivery or whatever.
Yep.
However we decide
Well,
to distribute them.
we're a tight knit community. I'm sure people can drive by and grab them.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the telethon. Now, you're talking to me about sardines here, and I got to know what this is all about.
New Year's Eve, Dave.
Yeah.
What do you usually do on New Year's Eve?
Actually, now, I will get a bottle of champagne. I'll make a real nice dinner for me and my wife and my son. And actually, we haven't let him yet, but he's 12 now. We probably will let him stay up and watch the ball drop. We have a glass of champagne, and I go to bed. That's
We used to
if
have.
you asked me what I did 20 years ago, I went down to New York City and watched the ball drop at
Well-
Times Square. But we get older.
We used to have a nice first night event here
Yeah.
in Keene, which went, by the way,
Shut
a
up.
few years ago because of,
Why?
it's either lack of interest, lack of money, a little
money.
of both.
I mean, it seemed to me like people really kind of turned out for it when I went. This
You get a
is
couple.
years back.
You get a couple of years though of horrible weather, below zero
Right.
or rainy, snowy kind
Right.
of stuff, and nobody comes out, and it basically ruins it forever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. That's true.
You
So
mentioned balls dropping.
yeah.
Well, in Eastport, Maine, which is the easternmost city in the United States,
Oh, so you're way up there.
way up there,
All right.
right across the bay from Campobello.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So at 11 p.m., they drop from the highest building in town, which is the Tides Museum.
Yeah.
They drop a big plywood maple leaf
Yeah.
to celebrate the Canadian New Year.
Okay.
Because just across the bay
Sure.
is Atlantic time zone.
Yeah.
So they bring it over,
Yeah.
drop a maple leaf at 11 o'clock, and then at midnight, they drop an 8-foot wood-framed, canvas-covered sardine.
And that would be because
Because Eastport, Lubeck, those little towns up there were all big sardine
yeah,
industry up there back in the day.
that's funny.
And last year I went up there for New Year's.
Yeah. Now, how long does it take? Did you drive up?
I did. I drive up every time.
How long does it take?
It takes me about 8 hours to drive up.
Oh, that's not the end of the world.
It's not bad.
No, I mean I imagine the scenery.
10
gets,
if you take your time, stop a few
imagine the
places.
scenery gets a little boring after a while, looking at those main trees for.
Yeah.
Mile
until you get out
after
on the
mile
coast. You get
after-
out on Route 1 and it gets
Right,
a little
right.
bit better.
So now,
Right.
how big is this town?
1,500 people.
Okay, so not a giant
Every
metropolis.
year in September they do a thing called the Pirate Fest,
Yeah.
which brings in 10 to 15,000 people into town.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then they do the sardine drop, which I actually went up last year and filmed.
Do we have this film?
We have this film. Sure.
As if I didn't know. Well, let's take a
So
look.
have a look, and then I'll
Let's take a
tell
look.
you the rest of the story.
Absolutely.
The puppies are getting on it. You tell them, Doggy. You tell them. Is that your version of Oh Canada?
that's cool.
And then,
You know?
and then of course, the tradition is that you go over and you kiss the fish.
Oh, is it? Oh, well, of course. You know, it's like the sardine version of the Blarney Stone.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, no, that's nice. You know, I mean, I actually kind of like to see that town a little bit more of it, what it looks like in the daylight, because that was like a beautiful
Oh, it's a beautiful
building.
little seaside town. You know,
But you look at that and watch that. You know, I mean, you can see that. You know, this is what makes there's a difference between having a community and a town.
Right.
You know, because
Exactly.
Rick was saying it was 5 degrees out with wind.
about 5
and-
degrees of wind, and it was like sleety, kind of misty, horrible.
Yeah, we're hardened Atlantic Ocean people, and
Yeah.
this is our fun. We're coming out for it.
Yep, and it's another about pirates and fishermen up there.
So, the pirate thing. What's that all about?
It's a pirate festival, 3 days.
you have
Nothing but pirates and
You have to dress like a
festivities,
pirate.
It's
and-
like our pumpkin fest.
Oh, okay.
Only, yeah, you dress like a pirate. Everything is pirate related. And,
That's cool.
Yeah, a bit of history and
And you were saying this. I'm sorry. It's Eastport.
Eastport.
It's just a few minutes from the International Bridge to
Campobello.
Campobello, and history will tell us about Campobello.
Well,
And-
Roosevelt used to spend his summers there.
Yeah, that I can't imagine it's real warm there in the summer either.
Oh, it's beautiful in the summer.
Is it?
Yeah,
I mean,
it is. It does get. I mean, it's not like Florida warm.
no. I mean, but
There's usually a good stiff breeze, usually, and depending on which way the breeze is blowing, if it's coming off the water, it's cold.
yeah. I mean, from what I've read, you get up to you get up there, and then what's up past it, Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, and all that. It's not like it gets to be 90 degrees.
No.
Summer's 70 degrees, right? I mean,
Yeah.
So it's you got to have some real stick to itiveness to you think about today being there. It's one thing. Think about being there 100 years ago,
Right.
when these towns were being founded, or 200 years ago, and
Oh yeah.
that had to be a rough life. I mean, I don't know how people did it. And maybe that's why everybody went west, right? Is it?
Because I don't think the weather got much better out there.
Once you got past the deserts, it was But no, that's really neat. That's so.
This past week, I was contacted by somebody from that Tides Museum
Yep.
who told me that the people from Wired Magazine and Wired.com were looking for me.
Yeah.
And they're doing a piece on New Year's Eve drops,
Yep.
and they wanted to use
No, is
a piece of my video.
this a paying job?
It's not a paying job.
Oh,
I
that's
don't
okay.
think.
Is it?
They haven't said anything about money yet. I gotta,
Wired magazine. I think
gotta
they gotta write you a check.
I gotta get more iron-fisted. But people say, "Can we use your stuff?" I'm like, sure.
Well, but right now you're trying to be
It's
noticed.
exposure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
I mean,
exposure.
if you get
So-
Wired magazine, just make sure when you send them a copy, you put your name and email address in the bottom corner of it. So.
Yeah, make sure that
know.
sure I get the proper credit. that I'm due.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, this it's how you do it. My wife and her sister wrote a kids book, and if you've ever sent in a book to a publisher, you're better. You get better odds of getting struck by lightning.
These
on a
days,
sunny
it's
day.
easier with all the self-publishing stuff on
But
the internet.
that's what
is-
they're looking at right now. Is
Yep.
and it's funny because I said you can't judge a book by its cover, but I said you better have a pretty good cover because I bet you're on the internet and it's boom boom boom. Oh, that one caught my eye. I mean,
Yep.
unfortunately, well, fortunately and unfortunately, but it'll give a lot of people a better chance to get their thoughts out there, their books out there.
Right.
The publishing game it's just crazy. I mean, if you don't know somebody, and these people get 100 books a week, I mean, it's not like they can even have any hope of reading anything. The internet kind of opens that up to everybody.
Yep.
So, and it's,
Hey.
hopefully you'll get noticed, and hopefully
go?
she'll sell the book, and I can
Retired?
be a at-home dad or something. I don't know. I don't know. I've been full-time employed since I was 16. I don't think I'd know what to do with myself if I
Yeah,
was.
probably wouldn't.
It wouldn't probably sit well with me.
Can
Unless,
we go national for a minute?
Sure. Yep. What do you got?
Because I have to say kudos to the citizens of Washington State and Colorado.
Oh, okay.
You know where I'm
yeah,
going.
I do. Go ahead.
Apparently, the new laws went into effect yesterday.
Yep.
And people out there in Washington State and Colorado freely fired up their joints and bowls
Right.
and bongs
Yep.
and hookahs and whatever they were smoking from. Now, here's the kicker. I didn't even see that lady come in. Here's the kicker. In these states, it is legal if you are over 21 to possess 1 ounce of marijuana.
Okay.
Okay? What's not legal is growing it and selling it.
Well,
But here's the plan.
Okay.
Which I think this is brilliant, and I've been, this has been my train of thought
Yeah.
for a long time. They figure by next year, they will have it a completely regulated free market.
Oh, you talking both states?
I believe that this was just Washington State.
Yeah,
they
because
were
I
talking
did
this
hear
morning.
about that. They got the Liquor Commission setting up how they're
Yeah.
going to do that.
With stores and licensed growers
Right.
and manufacturers, and they're going to tax it at 25%. They're planning on taxing it at 25%. They figure they'll make $5 billion in the first year.
Yeah, and they're probably guessing low. I mean,
Yeah.
Look, I'm very mixed on this. I don't think the war on drugs has been much of a success. I'll say that for sure.
It's cost over $1 trillion already.
It's unbelievable money, and it's not really getting us anywhere. My concern with the truth is when they say gateway drugs, the number one gateway drug's alcohol. If you ask
Yeah.
me, but if you do, how many people do cocaine or heroin and start by doing that, or do they start by doing alcohol and then pot and then? So, but the other side of that coin is you could probably pay the deficit off if the federal government put a federal tax stamp and charged, and
that's the
grew
thing.
it, and you would end a lot of the violence that goes with it.
Right.
And a lot of the crime and a lot of the money we spend on jails. So
And instead of the government paying farmers not to grow stuff,
they would
pay 'em to
line
grow
up.
pot.
They would
Pay 'em
line
to
up.
grow pot.
Yeah.
You know?
Because cilantro would be the only thing more expensive, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, or more profitable for a farmer. So I go back and forth on it. I mean, because you'd have to regulate it, and they're doing the right thing if you're going to do it. I guess is
Right.
is to go to the Liquor Commission because
Regulate it like liquor.
Regulate it like liquor. You got a tax stamp, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm just waiting to see how it all plays out. I guess. I mean, and because I don't think pot in and of itself is the end of the world. I just don't, and I'm totally for medical marijuana. And I think that and that frankly disgusts me that anybody would fight medical marijuana. I just find it disgusting. I mean, I've had back problems. I've had some other issues where I've had to take painkillers, and I'll tell you the difference between pot and painkillers. I mean, the painkillers they'll make you loopy.
Talk about
They'll
your
knock you out.
gateway drugs.
Yes. Well, now everybody's
Painkillers. Once you get hooked
right.
on painkillers, your next step is heroin.
Right, yeah, because nothing's going to
Because
you're
nothing
going to kill
there
that
you go.
pain. And I have an issue with pharmaceutical companies because they fight medical marijuana. Now,
Right.
if you asked me, and you know what drugs they give you if you have cancer, I mean, they are brutal. And whether it's chemotherapy or whether it's chemical chemotherapy or drug therapy on cancer patients, it's brutal. And if you can smoke pot, you can keep food down.
Right.
Now, what?
One of the biggest arguments was for the nausea. If they give you a pill for nausea, you're going to take the pill, you're going to throw it up.
But that pill doesn't work. I
Right.
mean, and
Right.
or in many cases, it doesn't work. So you're already being bombarded by the cancer treatment drugs, and now, we'll give you this pill for nausea, but it doesn't work.
Yep.
If you've taken, and I'm sure you're getting painkillers, I'm sure all the other things you get. But if you smoke weed, you can eat and keep the food down. Now, what is going to heal you faster?
Right.
Keeping food down and being healthy as you can under those circumstances. I really think it's pharmaceutical companies that are saying, "Wait a minute, no, we want to sell you a pill. We don't want you
It is.
buying that."
It is. It's a pill for everything.
It's just a practical answer. I think we could all agree on that. We had a big fight on this on council where, we were going to send a letter to the governor. This was, a while ago, saying, we support or don't support medical marijuana. And, a couple of the councilors got up and said, it's not for me as a counselor to make that call. And I got up and I said, you're right, it isn't. But if my doctor says it's a good idea, I'm perfectly okay with him making that call.
Right.
And, so let's say that we'll allow our doctors to make that decision and not legislators.
Right.
So, myself and another, counselor, our wives have had cancer. So, fortunately it didn't get as bad as some people. But, when you find out your spouse has cancer, it's, okay, what do I have to do? And believe me, if I had to get pot so she could keep her meal down, I would go get it. And, okay, you want to find me, go ahead. It just, we don't really have a great conversation on these things, a great national conversation. And that's where we really need to go.
Right.
Perhaps Washington, well, in all likelihood, Washington will provide us with a kind of laboratory.
Insight, yeah. Yep.
In a year from now, these stores will be running. Will we see spikes in harder drug use? Won't we? Certainly we'll see the revenue.
I know one thing that we'll see a lot less of that, the fake legal pot being sold
that's really bad, yeah.
It's really bad, because there won't be a need to sell that stuff anymore.
Right, that's true.
The lawn clippings that are treated with ammonia and all this other stuff that people are smoking to try and get high.
Right. And that's something I never thought of, but that's another point.
Yeah.
So, I guess Washington will become a case study, and maybe that'll tell us it's a good idea or a bad idea. And 2 years from now, I think we'll probably have answers already.
Yeah. Yep.
Once they're up and running. It's kind of, I'm mixed. I'm looking forward to seeing what the results are. I really am.
If it comes out in a positive light, that the federal government's going to shut down all the state stuff and go, oh wait, we'll take it over.
Well, they don't, what do they
and we're going to cut the money we give you.
Well, they do. Right now there's federal taxes on producing liquor, right, and then there's state taxes on selling it.
Yep.
So I same thing with cigarettes,
Everybody
right?
can make out. There's plenty of money to go
Yeah,
around.
there is. There would be. It'd be tens and tens.
And
of
if we
billions
could
of
keep
dollars.
it, on the north side of the border, instead of all the money drifting down into Mexico,
to support
making them people rich.
Well, rich and dead. I mean,
Rich and dead, yeah.
That's what's
The rich are rich, and
everyone else
is dead.
Everyone else is on the floor watching the bullets whiz by their head. So we're running to the
It's
last
about that
minute.
time, bud.
You didn't think we'd make it. Thank you for coming on.
You're welcome, Dave. It was enjoyable.
Thanks for watching another edition of Keene No Spin. Hopefully, Randy will be back from assignment next week.
If not, I'll take over again.
If not, you're always welcome back. Thank you and good night.
Right.